I go about trading them throughout this entire panel. That's perfectly fine. So kind of this is a mix between basic intro and more advanced. So to kind of get a scope of everybody, get a sense of what is Yu-Gi-Oh, what did it start out as, what are the basics, and then where it's come down to. In fact, even including, I went ahead this morning then and pulled up the brand new band list for this next format. So there's one thing in particular that I saw that I went, oh, come on now. Goes to show how fast the band list can change back from something, or as soon as I start using something in my deck, this last format, oh, don't go, this band, okay, worthless. So you got that going, did you? Nice work. Okay. All right, so So while this just warms up again, just in a general sense, who has, if they want to call themselves an expert, who deems themselves an expert in Yu-Gi-Oh? Okay, who would deem themselves then a novice in it? Okay, good. So kind of got that bit of a mix in here then. That's excellent for. So again, kind of what we're going to start off with is, I'm sure a lot of people here have, if they're here, at least heard of or seen maybe the anime.
What's that?
Version. What's that? I only read the manga. But that's something I want to just get off my chest right now, is every time you hear the phrase King of Games, that implies plural, as in multiple games.
Dungeon Dice Monsters is more than one.
Oh, no. Fine, got me on that one. But yes, that's exactly it. In the original manga, it was not originally designed to just be dual monsters. It was going to be an entire series with multiple games, dice games, just random stuff you throw throughout. And that's if you watch season 0 of the anime. That's actually more true to the manga. For the early parts of the manga. And so that's where the phrase King of Games actually came from. So most people only think about the one thing he plays, and that must be the only game that they play throughout this entire universe. Grandpa must be doing really well in his shop. That's what he's selling.
Trust in the heart of the cards, Yugi.
Alright. So another one, I just want to kind of get a feel for when you guys run a deck, obviously, some people are super meta gamers here. Some people play just for the fun of it, you know. That's what originally the term children's card game comes from, is because the age rating on it is 6+. And I'm looking around here, I don't see too many people close to that age. That's a niche out. Actually, if he runs that fast, does it mean that he's breaking the space-time continuum, so he actually gets 6?
Sonic version 2 shoots time travel within the... Thank you. Has anyone over? See, he has 3 9s. I don't have 3 9s yet.
Okay. I actually don't need audio in my case, but I thought there was a plug in here because it's so much better like this. Okay, now oh, okay, so I'll know the plug in if I need it. Okay, thanks. Alright, so let's go ahead and pop this up just as my background. Okay, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't still a children's card game. And to some people, if they've seen the leaks recently, there are some new cards supposed to be coming out, especially in regards to the Toons and the Legendary Dragons. And I don't think, if you think back how many years ago that was when that was premiered on the anime and the manga, 6-year-olds were not alive at the time. So I don't think they're making those cards to impress them. They're looking for the nostalgia factor to get you back into those builds. And Konami is a business, and that's what they use their ban list for. It's to get you to switch cards or start paying the next 20 for a QD Fort or something like that, just to make your deck competitive. And that's why, again, I wanted to get a feel. Who's really the meta competitive around here? So you guys go to a lot of tournaments then and such? Okay. And then people who just kind of do it for fun with their friends and go to the card shops and yeah, you look to have fun. So you probably will play random things. I really want to bring back up my Toon deck with these new cards. Just see how it works again. So some basic statistics then that are current. Right now with Arc 5, there are 5 separate anime series then. You got your card games on motorcycles series, you got your card games with Scouters series, you got your card games at school, and you got your card games in general. And card games on Hippopotami. I said okay, that's a part of Hippopotamus. Purple Realm. I actually created one where it was card games on dinosaurs. Like, we keep going into the future, we forget. There's so much in the past to play with. Here. So let's just ride them like old 1980s Dino Rider style. And duel on them.
I'm waiting for when the characters get really old and you have card games in wheelchairs.
That's the next movie. That's what Jack Atlas's new title is. So aside from that currently I did a tally on it, and with the OCG, which is, if you think about pretty much Japan and some of the Asian countries, then they use the OCG rulings, and they have their own special cards sometimes. And the same goes for TCG, which is essentially the North American or English print versions of the cards and Spanish prints. So over in total, there's about 7,000 different cards, and a lot of them do duplicate effects that nobody would ever use. I think it was, which one was it? Double Tornado, I think it was, the one where you destroy one of your own spell and trap cards, and then you can destroy one of your opponents. Well, right now, Mystical Space Typhoon is at 3. So I don't know anybody who would run that Double Tornado aside from just having, it's Double Cyclone, that's right. I just read the art of it being like, it looks like the Typhoons, or a Cyclone or something like Twister. But there's cards like that that are just completely redundant. And what more purpose do they serve than to put them into a deck? There were cards that specifically negated Pot of Greed. And as soon as Pot of Greed goes on the ban list, who in their right mind has that card existing in their deck anymore? Except I can see that in that big deck Yu-Gi-Oh one. That would be one who's just a troll. I like this guy's design. He's showing me it last night in the tabletop room. A special version of Yu-Gi-Oh he designed himself. So check with him afterwards if he's more than welcome to kind of tell people what he has designed. I think that's a new format that should really be set up at hobby shops and stuff. That would be something really great to get people into the game without having to make them pay for it at first. So again, current statistics then, highest grossing TCG in the world as of now. And a lot of people know Magic the Gathering and a whole bunch of other card games. But this one by far has sold the most cards and has grossed the most dollars over the years. And there used to be that Upper Deck Entertainment used to be the ones distributing these cards until back in 2008 they had their own lawsuit situation with Konami where they were printing essentially fake cards in their opinion then and distributing them. And so as of right now, Konami is currently in control of both OCG and TCG distribution and manufacturing. So more money for them. When equipped into your monster, this card allows you to screw the rules because you have money.
Oh, that's a card they had a TV show.
Okay, so kind of now into the basic aspect of it. I'm going to kind of speed through this portion here. But basic setup here, you got your general monster cards. This is all you used to see early in the years. Nowadays, you can't open a pack without it being pretty much every monster is an effect monster. No. And again, then there's cards, spells, and traps and stuff that are explicitly for normal monsters. So again, who wants to run that in their deck in many cases? Because now you just limited yourself. So again, more cards just printed up that take place in packs. So you have your attribute, which is in the top corner. Your monster name, levels, that determines how much, when you can summon them or not. You have their attack and their defense. Originally in the OCG, I believe it was, if you attacked, even if a monster was in attack position, it would still be the defense points that you took into account. So you could have a monster in attack position all day if he had 3,000 defense, and it'd be really hard to destroy. Whereas the official rulings in the TCG is that if he's in attack position, it's your attacks that go against each other. So the higher the two attacks wins, the lowest monster is destroyed, and you take life point damage. Yeah?
And the reason they did that is because Magic said if you don't change the rules when you market to North America, you will be sued.
So that's because I didn't play a lot of Magic, so I didn't get the relationship to that, but I can see that.
Magic came out about 5 years before that, and they already had the system in place, and then Yu-Gi-Oh started to market to North America.
And that would explain why the OCG worked perfectly fine for it, and then when they tried to work it into the TCG side
everything got
things,
screwed because
it got screwed around. Okay, and then the card description. For normal type monsters, it's typically a clever little phrase. I think one of the more recent ones I pulled, what was that one? White-tailed Dragon, one that I just recently pulled. First normal monster I've seen in a long time pulling out of a pack. I love its description because its attack is 2,500 and its level is 6. So in its description it says, what was it? Those who capture this dragon are imprisoned, it's a level 6 offense, and they are imprisoned for 2,500 time frame, something. So that's just like clever, in my opinion, is you're playing with the monster's attack and its level in the description. And there's basic 6 attributes, not too much unlike Magic, where you have Greek. It is an actual type, but again, it's not common at all. I mean, there's really only a few cards. Like everybody wants to summon the God cards.
Oh, make an Ultra Chicken.
Yeah.
And that's another thing to bring me up to that is the anime in no way should be your guide for how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1, you just summoned a whole bunch of monsters on one turn. Now don't get me started on that. We'll get to that. That's all Arc 5. But yes, we'll summon the strongest. Your Blue Eyes White Dragon, no tribute, no nothing. Just summon. You draw them, summon them. You're like, okay, why don't I just have an entire deck made up of Blue Eyes White Dragons? Because
there's only 4 in the world.
In the real world, that is not a very rare card.
It's not.
It's not. So parts of the attributes then are involved in card effects as well, where certain cards will boost the attack or defense of said attribute, or traps can destroy only said attribute. It's an important part of the game. So a lot of people in the past would either run a straight attribute deck where you'd have all dark monsters or all wind monsters, or then in vice versa, you'd actually go with their type, which is dragon or zombie. That's how you start building those competitive decks early on, before they introduced a true archetype. Disregard every little long piece, I just typed that out for the heck of it. But fusion monsters were really the first extra deck monster. And they didn't call it extra deck, they called it fusion deck, because you didn't have synchros, you didn't have exceeds, you didn't have now pendulums that can sit in the extra deck on top of it. That's all it was literally labeled as fusion monster cards. And the way these would work is that you would have a spell card, pretty much only polymerization at the early stages. And that would fuse some of your monsters. In the manga, you can fuse any monsters you want simply by hooking them on top of each other, which for those who know Xyz monsters, that's starting to sound familiar. So typically the fusion monsters would be stronger, but not in many cases. Like this Flame Swordsman, if I remember, his attack is only 1800, and there are plenty of normal monsters that are level 4 you can summon right away, stronger than that. So why do I need to waste 2 monsters and polymerization for that? Except to treat it as a special summon.
Because it's Joey Wheeler's favorite card.
Because, again, Konami banking the money. Because, I'll tell you a story I had years ago. Back when I was really getting into it and such, there's a lot of little kids younger kids that I knew years down the road. So it wasn't right when it started off, more along the lines of mid-2000s. But all they wanted was, man, you got Dark Magician? Oh, you got Blue Eyes White Dragon? Here, I'll trade you this Ghost Rare for it. You guys don't know what they have. And I feel bad. You feel bad about that. I mean, I literally said to them, you know, are you sure? I mean, this card is actually a pretty rare card. But they say, no, I really want this one because this is what I saw in the anime. This is what they're using, and this is like a cool. This is a cool card. Everyone wants this. And in that sense, okay, I ended up giving them because they got what they wanted. I got what I wanted. Obviously, we had different purposes than we each would have for that, but it goes to show that the anime had a huge influence on this game. That again, it's a trading card game. You can use it for dueling, or you can use it for collecting. And they really wanted to just collect what they liked, what they saw. Okay. So Koda took some rituals.
I guess ritual monsters, part of the main deck, are monsters that can only be summoned with a ritual spell that usually includes their name, and you have to tribute from the field or hand monsters whose level equal level of the ritual.
What about ritual cards that are greater than them, require levels like the Vanquish?
Greater, equal or greater.
There you go.
I think some now say equal, so you have to be very precise to summon them, but I think those are only powerful ones.
Which, I mean, a ritual summon comes back into pretty much being a tie thing with fusions. I mean, it's just that you have to have the rituals monster in your deck to summon them, and then you still have to have a spell card. So like polymerization, you need to have that to fuse. You need to have a spell card to have this happen.
You just need the ritual spell. You need the ritual spell in your hand, the ritual monster in your hand. You have to have both in your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's more difficult in some cases than to pull off the fusion. But in this case, you don't need to have specific monsters. Like a lot of the fusion monsters in the past required 2 explicit monsters for the summoning. Whereas a lot of the new ones, 1 hero and 1 warrior. It opens it up and makes fusions a lot more competitive nowadays. But I still don't see enough of them, aside from people who are using, for those who know, instant fusion. They're pretty much just spamming that to see summon them at some point because you bring out. That's the game. It's just all Xyz. It's nothing more. Alright. And as I mentioned earlier, effect monsters are what are pretty much dominating the game nowadays. Almost nobody runs a normal monster unless that's the deck design they're running, because there are spell cards that allow you to summon, special summon only a normal type monster from your hand. I'm trying to remember one off the top of my head. I know the art image for it. It's the one that looks like a scroll with a blue dragon.
Ancient rules.
Ancient rules? Okay, that makes sense with the name then too. So that only can allow you to summon a normal type, level 8 or higher, level 5 or higher. So that card, it's only going to work in a deck that has normal monsters. So you can't just throw it together in one sitting.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work too well. But effective monsters are pretty much dominating the game because you're not really destroying your opponents by the attack anymore. You're destroying them by effect damage, either by life point damage or by destroying their monsters and then going for the OTK, which is essentially one turn kill. So right then and there, I'm saying I'm going for it all. I'm going to use this effect, destroy that monster, this effect there, all of them attack. Okay. Now into spells, or sometimes magic. So I kind of mixed up the naming scheme here. Pretty much spells the only term used nowadays.
Economy of America sucks.
Because magic. Because they couldn't say magic probably, and they couldn't get that. It's Magic the Gathering or something like that. Said nope, can't say that.
There was actually there's still a tournament rule in play for Magic, where the Dispel Magic card from Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be run in decks that dispels any Magic card and you can play it out of your hand.
Oh.
And
See, I haven't been to any. I've never seen that ruling in person before, so I've never
there's
thought of it.
rulings for tournaments where they have joke cards, and the joke cards allow you to play another card game, and people keep Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards in their deck specifically for that purpose because a level or a 600 attack in Magic will end the game right there. When they run tourney decks, they run that deck and they run the Unhinged Unglued, and that's how they win the tourney. Is with Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards and with the D-Spell.
So another lost win happened yet or not?
No, they actually, Magic did it as a joke to Yu-Gi-Oh! And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Loved it because they were buying cards, so they let it happen, and then they're not printing them anymore, so the price of those cards has gone way up. So you have two people collecting the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. And
Versus the okay. So now I know who to bring all my magic ones to that I got the magic word on. Okay. So yeah, essentially spell cards. I got the different kind of spell cards. We'll brush through them quickly here.
Normal spells, play from hand, effect, go to grave. In Rageki's case, nuke your opponent's monster.
I was surprised this came off the ban list.
Thank you, Konami of America, you did something right for once.
Because this card was so overpowered when it came out. Yeah, because you pretty much, you nuke everything on your opponent's field. If you had this, and you had Heavy Storm, that was an OTK in and of itself. Because you nuked their entire, first you nuked their backfield, which is what I'll refer to as, for those who don't know, that's the spell and trap card zone. It's the backfield. And I got backfield. What back row? I got backfield.
Meta terms.
I don't like meta terms. I don't play meta terms. So what you do is, yeah, you nuke out the back row, and then you would nuke out all monsters, go for the attack straight in there, and as opposed to popular belief, the anime, when it started out with, oh, you have 2,000 life points. There are monsters that have 2,000 life points, so there you go. Someone dead.
Monsters 2,000 attack points. I'm going to crank you on every time you mess up.
I was referring to life points, yeah, in the anime. In the series. Had life points, okay. I'm sure they're smart enough to figure this out. They're not 8,000 years old like you. So yeah, that was, I'm surprised this is awful, and I have not yet run it again. Continuous spells are spell cards that once played, they would stay on the field until their effect resolves or until they are destroyed. So in this case, Gravekeeper's Servant. I love using this one particularly for a lot of my decks because what it does is it makes your opponent take a card from their deck and send it to the graveyard before they can declare an attack. So that kind of sets you up in a great defensive position by one card that makes them have to start dishing out their cards. And I used to run a, essentially I called it a deck destruction deck, where I would run with Cyber Jar, I would run with Morphing Jar, I would run with Needleworms, I'd run everything just to pretty much deck you out in a couple of turns. And this card was a helper to that, because then it would give me a little bit of defense at the same time to start descending.
And in Magic, that's called a mill.
Mill. That's the right term.
Change the spirit.
Right.
But they term is adopted by players.
I've never referred to it as that. I always like the cool term, like destruction, like just destroys it all to the graveyard kind of scenario. Because milling you can consider putting in your hand then and keeping in there, whereas I wanted to get them all in graveyard so you had no play out of your hand.
The equip spell, target a monster, it stays on the field as long as the monster stays on the field, and it usually gives a buff, or in some cases, debuff.
Field spells, this is a big new rule change. And I was surprised to see this actually happen earlier this last year. Field spells, they have their own zone in which you can play them in. And they would typically give your monster a boost or create some sort of special effect, especially around archetypes like Dark World, zombies, heroes. And now the new ruling is, the original was that only one field spell could exist at a time. And both you and your opponent would have the effect of that field spell. And when your opponent plays a new field spell or you play a new field spell, it destroys the old one. Now the new rule is that both you and your opponent can have existing field spells at the same time. So I haven't seen it in tournament action yet, but I want to just see what the rulings are in terms of a lot of the field spells that both increase or may decrease and have effects that counteract each other, because that's what they were designed for, was that there would only be one field spell at the time, so nobody had to think about them counteracting each other. Now you just throw that rule in here, you got to make sure, let's go back and make sure we didn't screw ourselves over here and have cards that will possibly occur in an actual tournament play and either negate each other or cause effects that can't possibly happen in twice.
The quick play spell, you can play during the battle phase, usually
As long as it's set.
no, from your hand in the battle phase, then you quick play spell. Then you set and can activate on your opponent's turn. If you set, you can't activate the turn you set.
That's right. He's got me on that one.
I've got you on everything.
I jumped the gun. Ritual spells. Now this is where we were talking about the ritual monsters earlier. You need to have a specific spell card then in order to summon them, and you have to have that in your hand and played when you had the ritual monster in your hand as well. And then you also had to have, in this case, there's the reading for it, or relinquish, that's the one I had pictured earlier. You had to tribute total levels equaling 1 or more in order to have that monster.
Trap cards, you set them, and then either normal traps set, and when a certain condition is met, you flip it face up, its effect resolves, and it goes to grave. In Mirror Force case, if you attack me, I flip it face up, all attack position monsters you control are gone.
I love continuous traps. Continuous traps are a huge thing with the sacred beasts. Continuous traps and spells, because I used to run Ryan. It's Ryan? Because it works with a lot of people who play back row. Because his effect essentially allows you just to destroy one every turn, and his attack would be based on how many continuous trap cards you had. And a lot of continuous trap cards, that was your defense. You didn't need monsters to defend you. You had trap cards that would negate effects. You trap monsters, so you can even then move them into your monster zone and defend you. So I love continuous traps.
When this is over, I'm sending you to the shadows for taking my point.
Will I ever make the shadows? Come on, I'm gonna have company, yeah.
Counter traps. Now, something I don't know if he's covering is spell speed. Certain card effects have a different speed in which you can chain them. Like, for 1, you have to chain it 2 or higher. Counter trap is the highest speed of 3. So, I think you need a counter trap to counter a counter trap. but it depends. And then you just go anime, reveal face down, you activate my trap, no, you activate my trap, and goes on for hours.
And typically the counter trap is always is going to have a cost to it. In this case, Magic Jam, it requires you discard one card from your hand in order to activate it. So that's typical in most cases because of being that high of a speed, that essentially nothing is going to stop it if you activate it. It's going to cost you either life points or cards or some other a monster on your or something. So that's Season 0 Yami Yugi, where I like to refer as dark. Because he is like, if you watch this thing, this is where poor kids would hate to ever have this animated. Because I think they would spend more time editing it than they would actually airing it. Because you got guns, you got alcohol, you got people being burned with invisible flames.
You've got me trapping souls in Dungeons and Dragons pieces.
And Kyla's hair is green. So just imagine that. And
he's even meaner.
And actually Mokuba is the meanest looking of them all. Season 0. Go like, oh look at he's cute, the big brother. And go like, no, you are my bitch now. Alright, so now let's get into some of the newer monsters then that are kind of contrary out of the order. When they introduced Synchro monsters, they introduced the tuner monsters. And when I first heard about this, I thought Toon monsters. So I thought, oh my god, okay, so I guess this is Dex actually going to become super relevant? Because they're going to base monsters entirely around an entire series? And then, no, then I saw this card and I'm like, oh, okay, it's like desert, desert, there's a different spelling, you know, consequence there. So a tuner monster would essentially always be required to make a synchro summon. So kind of replacing the polymerization for fusions, replacing the ritual spell cards for ritual monsters. Now to get a synchro, you needed a tuner monster. And this is one of the first ones, Tuner Warrior, just to kind of get things basic out there. In order to then, as it should be the follow-up, synchro summon a monster.
Synchro what?
Synchro summon!
What summon?
Synchro summon.
What?
I'm done. It's ahead of your time.
Oh.
But in this case, as opposed to a lot of the rituals then where it is one or more, or whatever that level of the ritual monster is, plus, you had to have exactly the level needed for these monsters, which sometimes can be a pain when all of a sudden you know, okay, I need to summon Stardust, I need it now. What do I draw? Oh shoot, it's a level 3. That's done, I can't do a thing. So then they ended up designing a lot of cards that were based on changing the levels of monsters at this time. So to make it more relevant for you, didn't have to limit yourself to what do I draw. I can actually control now these monsters' levels in a lot of cases. But for example, what you needed here, you need one tuner monster plus one or more non-tuner monsters until their levels equal the level of the synchro monster you're going to get. And this is when they changed the extra deck from fusion deck into the term we all know now, extra deck, because now it's not just fusion monsters anymore. So they had to make that change, otherwise I'd be confused as all hell. And synchro monsters really brought a huge change to the game, because now you can do a lot of extra deck work instead of having to pull that polymerization, and a lot of those fusion monsters were worthless in my opinion. Pretty much every synchro monster has an effect that you can really use at the right time. So most people will run, in the early days, a Stardust or something like that because of their effect. There's just a description then of how to make a synchro summon. And you would then send these 2 cards to the graveyard, and then that's how you would get your synchro monster onto the field. Is it safe to duel with this thing? Don't worry, this thing has an autopilot. You don't need to drive. Then why the hell do I need this motor? Shut up. Just shut up. Yosei! I came to this city, to this convention, to tell you, card games are motorcycles.
Anybody who calls in an XYZ monster, I refer to the anime. And to anybody that hates the anime, I refer to you to its second season. Xyz Summon is Xyz monsters are a type of monster that reside in the extra deck and are summoned by having 2 or more of the same level of monsters on the field. You put them on top of each other, overlay, and then you summon the Xyz monster on top of them. To activate the Xyz monster's effect, you detach one of the monsters as a cost, and when it's out of Xyz material, its effect is gone.
And sometimes there are effects that do last as long as the monster's on the field, but it's a cost of, what was it? I saw one recently. Does anyone recall one, or run one that still can use its effect even without material?
I don't need my materials and now he's during battle and we both take advantage.
Numeronia.
What was his effect?
Basically, if your opponent doesn't attack, they lose.
So just having him on the field then creates that. And if you can negate their attack so that they can't even declare one?
He doesn't have. He doesn't attack. He just.
Well, I'm saying if you had a card combo there
Yeah.
to set it up where your opponent cannot declare an attack that turn, then you can have your instant win condition there. And now the newbies. I'm letting him go with these guys because this just is blowing me
Because the one who's way out of his league in time of these cards, or whatever you said, gets to talk about the newest ones. Pendulum monsters, half monster, half spell. New zones, pendulum zones, a red one and blue one. So you can summon them like a monster and get their monster effect near the bottom, or you can play them in the zone where you count the scale, the number next to the red and blue diamonds, gems, and you get that pendulum effect in between. Here we have Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon and Time Gazer Magician, scales 4 and 8. If you add them both on the field, you could then, at the same time, summon any number of monsters from your hand whose levels were between 4 and 8, so 7 and 5. But Time Gazer's effect wouldn't let that happen. You need another magician in your pendulum zone.
It's an or odd eyes, so I got you on that one too.
You got me on one.
I got you on that one. So, and these are the ones then that were the initial protagonists are new 5, Arc 5. Actually, when I saw it, I thought it was Arc V. Because I forgot Roman numerals. It makes sense.
It is Arc V.
Is it Arc V?
Yes.
So I've heard a lot of people refer to just a straight Arc 5 now.
Arc V for the win.
It's Arc V as far as I've heard. Also, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeal, not Zexal.
Zeal, yes. Or Zell.
Yeah, so yeah, then I got a little comment here. To route us all back to the original.
Yep.
Wait a minute, did you just summon a bunch of monsters on one turn?
Yeah, so?
That's against the rules, isn't it?
Screw the rules, I have pendulum summons.
Because now anybody can be as rich as Kaiba and screw the rules.
Yay! If you never screw like him, I draw 1,000 cards and not agree.
So now we're on to what the ban list. So this is a little bit more of an advanced piece of Don't worry, they never Dark Hole, and now Dark Hole is what, at 3? So don't worry, they never Dark Hole and traditional raid. Okay, they're all off the ban list. But this just makes me think that all these pendulum summons where it just turns into, okay, throw all these monsters out, and you either gotta decide to run a pendulum deck, or run something against a pendulum deck, because you can shut down your opponent as long as you can prevent them from summoning that big, or right there, they go hands in at one time, dark hole, blow the entire field. I've got 4 cards in my hand now, you gotta draw. I got you on this one, your top deck at this point. So this is, again, these are some of the big ones that I use. And all on the ban list. But super polymerization, I think it went on the ban list because when they started doing that fusion set where super polymerization allows you to take from your opponent's field, and the old fusion cards, since they required a specific monster, typically that was very far from happening that your opponent had the exact monster you needed on their side of the field. But when you only need, oh, 1 warrior and 1 winged beast, well, you got winged beast, I'll take that. Thank you very much. And since it was it's a quick spell, and yeah, I'll set that down as your trap. You summon him? I want him.
You attack with him? Shane!
That's Blue Eyes, yeah. I think I'll fuse with it.
Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Ultimate Dragon. Oh no, wait, no, there's a Shining Blue Eyes. Okay, that's more stronger. Oh, let's forget that. We got Obelisk. What up?
Dragon Master Knight.
Every form of Blue Eyes humanly possible. Okay, so I'll get on to the, I actually have a PDF of the ban list, the new ban list, so we can kind of browse through that quick. But one of my pet peeves that come out of that is you create cards, archetypes, that just nobody uses. Their support cards actually work better in other decks. Like Ghost Trick Alucard works better in many other decks than it actually does in its own Ghost Trick archetype. So some of these cards, like yeah, the Ghost Tricks or the Symphonics, I thought they were cool when to get them, but no, nobody really plays them unless you're just doing it for the fun. You're not going to see this in a metagame at all, unless they. What do you think? Do you actually think they'll support these in the future more?
Who plays Ghost Tricks? I'm sure there's one.
Yeah, but again, are you guys really the metagame players with them? Or are you playing them because you like them, right? Like, that's why I got them. Was because I liked them. Yeah. When did our monsters get so adorable?
When I got off the anime.
And then you got your ones that are just blowing up everything. So here's your metagame at this point.
Your magic cards.
But I really like the Burning Abyss artwork though, because I think they have someone different doing the art for these for the TCG.
It was me. I was the one that I did it. I did all. Evil spirit, evil ring.
But some artwork, you know, it's the current TV artwork, the Toon Gator, Toon Alligator, and stuff like that. Which I think is the only Toon monster that's not an effect monster. The only one you can count in a Toon deck at this time.
I have another thing against Konami from America. TCG exclusive, Burning Abyss, depicting monsters from hell. Do we get halos? No. Do we get devil horns? No. Do we get names? No. They change them. I hate Konami from America.
I like my Black Magician. It's from the hood. Okay, so just a quick thing before we get onto that ban list then. Best ways to play cheaply for those who just want to kind of start things out. Or kind of like what a lot of people do with Pokemon Showdown, if you guys are Pokemon fanatics as well. You test out before you start raising, hatching, doing all that. You test them out on Pokemon Showdown. What do I want to have for my battle team? And then I'll go raise them. Same thing can happen with either using DevPro, UPro, or using Dueling Network. You have access to all cards that are known, and I prefer the DevPro system because it will do everything pretty much automatically for you. That's at least been coded into the system where I say attack, okay, I don't need to worry about deducting life points or anything. It will automatically do that like some of the video games would.
Just a lot faster.
Yeah, so, and a lot of customization. So, you know, here's a Sub-Zero that has some card sleeves. You can put anything you want. Just makes it more fun and free, as long as you have a computer and internet access.
I hate you.
Cost enough for money. And then I like this guy. That's OCGS. Because you can, a lot of people will get upset on here. if you start playing OCG cards because you have access to them. But then you say, okay, I didn't set the game up for just TCG. You said, okay, OCGs are fine, so that's your choice. And then there's just a look at what Dueling Network then looks like. This one just takes a little bit more where you gotta physically summon the tokens or activate the effects.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Okay. So that's that part here then. Now right here is the new April ban list. And this is killing me right here. Dragon Ruler of Inferno? Infernos, I think, was the new one.
All the big dragons and all the little ones are back.
Where was the one? There was. There you are. Wasn't Snatch Steel just brought off the ban list?
Yes.
And it's back on.
Yes.
The card's nuts.
So it went, yeah, as soon, and I just actually added that to my deck. I'm going to go ahead and play with it yet. And already, what, a week from now, I got to switch it out.
Stupid question. Is that the OCG or TCG ban list?
This is the TCG ban list.
Okay.
So yeah, that's depicted by this where it says trading card game. But yes, now you can see all the dragon rulers, and I think that's every one of them now.
All the big ones are gone, and all the little ones are back. Don't know what the little ones do.
The little ones aren't as useful without the big ones. So it's one of those fun things where let's throw something on the ban list, and then pretty much nobody's going to want to use those extra cards anymore, so they're going to chuck them away, and then let's take them back off the ban list. So now anybody who wants to run the dragon rulers, maybe they need to get the little guys. Some of the ones that I gotta say that I will never see off the ban list. Anybody got anything aside from? I honestly think they can bring Chaos Echo Dragon back. It's not as overpowered as it used to be anymore. TCG.
They have 3 Judgment Dragons, so I'm pretty sure Chaos Echo will be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that.
Yeah. Something else. Magical Scientist, I think, can be brought back now as well because Fusion. I'll have enough. Because Fusion monsters are still kind of in a state of flux. I think they should bring it back just to test it out and see how this effect would, when people start taking way out of their synchros to put more fusion capabilities with Magical Scientist.
What is it, Thousand Eyes Relinquished or something? Relinquished Fusion?
Well, yeah, is he still in the middle?
He's still banned.
Yeah.
Is Stratos still banned?
Stratos still banned and probably won't get pulled off for a while. I think what they should do is they should let everything go to limited for the time being, for like one format, just to reestablish the ban list. I'm sure most of them will go back on, but just to get a feel, because yeah, again, who is going to run Thousand Eyes Restraint? Who? If they do,
Pegasus fans?
Maybe it's not going to be good enough to say, okay, we'll put it back on the ban list. It's just tearing up the metagame.
What happened to Monster Reborn?
Monster Reborn. Pot of Greed will never come off.
It needs to though.
The reason for that is because it is essentially a free 1+ card. Because you just take any card out of your deck, replace it with Pot of Greed, it just allows you to draw that extra card.
Who remembers in the anime when Kyrie used Ring of Destruction and then Ring of Defense so he won't take the damage? Anybody here watching the anime remember that? Okay. So Ring of Destruction is back, but they changed it so first you take the damage and your opponent takes the damage equal to what you took, so you can't do that combo. So they said, hey, all you guys like Kyrie, we're giving you one of his best cards back. Guess what? You can't do his combo.
Tour Guide of the Underworld that's been brought into Limited, which I expected, but, and that's actually better for me because I never got 2 of them, so I only get the 1 nowadays. Sinister Serpent got brought off the Forbidden List.
I think its effect was changed a little bit as well.
Yes, it was. Horribly.
Was it changed?
Yes, a lot.
Do you know what was the new effect?
Basically, during your standby phase, you still get it to your hand, but during your opponent's end phase, if it's in the graveyard, you have to banish it.
Ah,
so then that way during your next standby phase, you can't get it back.
Gotcha.
Right.
So that's the old, then you have to, here's the case where you have to actually change the effect to even get it off the list. And at that point, why?
Yeah.
Because that's just going to be confusing to a lot of people playing it because here's what the card text reads, but you've changed now the ruling of it. So all the old, it's just an excuse to reprint it, in my opinion, because now everybody just wants to get the reprint. so they don't need to worry about messing up with this card.
That's why they wrote Alpha.
Dragon Ravine is brought off the Forbidden List. So a lot of them that were brought off the Forbidden List this time.
What's banishing?
Huh?
What's banishing?
Oh, that's removing from play. Like it's not in the graveyard, it's not in the deck, it's not on the field.
Which a lot of cards bring things back from being banished, so it's not really as relevant as it used to be years ago where, oh my god, my card's been banished, I can't do a thing with it now. Return from a different
In
dimension.
Magic, if anyone else plays, I don't know who else plays, I'm actually out. It's exiling them? It's exiling.
Yeah. Okay. What else did we get on here then? Okay, so tour guide.
Crush Card Virus is back, but they changed the effect.
Again, so all the old Crush Card viruses, I'm just going to be confused on if I take mine and use it. Because unless I look at the new one, I'm done. You got it. Are you ready for the next one?
That's the card under preparation.
Okay, so just a couple more we need to change.
That's
A couple more I just want to touch base on then that was here. Second Crush Card virus. Ring of Destruction is back. Limited. Skill Drain has been added to the limited list.
So did Vanity Zeppelin.
Willard Scout, yep, that's being put there. Zekroz is already starting to put on the list. I'm sure more will come. See, now this is an example of moving things down off the synchro list then. Xian is now up to 2.
If only the 6 Samus were as good as they used to be.
Charge of the Light Brigade is around 2 now.
Oh,
there we go. There's all the, as you mentioned, the movies that move around. Spirit. So these are the ones no longer on the list. Spirit is now no longer on the list. So 3 spirits jump from being limited to 3 now. It's big. All the small dragon rulers, obviously, have been pulled off. With their big guys banned, they're pretty much worthless. Goyo Guardian is no longer.
A couple formats ago, Goyo was gone for good. Then they brought him back to 1, and they brought him back to 2.
Oh, I did not catch this one. Lone Blossom is now. Plantex. Woo!
Best car right there.
Plantex with Quasar, yeah.
2-card Quasar with Lone Fire.
And Gores has got 3, but I didn't see many people play Gores even when he was at 2, so I don't think anybody actually played it.
I'm going to build a deck around him, and I'm going to destroy everyone.
So you're going to prove me wrong by building a deck of Gores.
I'm always going to prove you wrong.
Okay, so I think that's the big ones. Anybody have any main questions then about anything? Or anything that they didn't see on this list they want to check quick?
I think that was.
How many of the jars are still on the banned list?
Everything except, I think, Absorbing Jar, I think.
Even Cobra?
Yeah, Absorbing Jar is not on there.
Even Cobra Jar?
Absorbing Jar, that was the one where you destroy all spell and trap cards, and then you draw cards equal to that, so it's one of those OTKs, in my opinion, to kind of take the place of Heavy Storm. Flip him up, destroy your opponent's back row. Sure, he draws cards, but if you're going for the OTK, it's not going to matter. Anything else? What? No, but I think it was meant for a great coaster full I drink. Anyone else then? Otherwise, I'm taking it as there will be a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh meetup before the 18 plus switch up in the tabletop room, so that's where I'm going to be for most of the time until that switches. So you can expect to find me there then. Are you going to be running the big box in there? Okay, so yeah, come on in, check that out, see how it runs. I definitely want to get in another round. But otherwise, thanks for coming, guys. For those new and old, I hope this was an eye-opener for you guys.